I'm Ro. I'm going to be talking about the Katamuwa Stele. This was an 800-pound stele. It's made out of basalt. It's 3 feet tall, 2 feet wide. It dates back to the 8th century BC, more accurately 743 to 732 BC, which is the Iron Age 2. Whenever it was found, Dr. Sloan, who was part of the expedition, said that it was a pristine example of both a pictorial and textual artifact from the time period. Now, if we look in the background here, we'll see some script. The script is derived from the Phoenician alphabet, and it's in a local West Semitic dialect, which is similar to Aramaic and Hebrew. Now, if we will look on this side here, we'll see an actual photo of the stele that was taken by the University of Chicago. And then on the other side, we've got a drawing that was done by Karen Rexuk. It was given by the Nebular Institute, who did the funding for some of the excavations that led to the finding of this stele. Now, if we notice, this isn't very clear in some aspects. We can see up here is kind of damaged. It's more noticeable over here. You can see the mark showing that there's damage on it. So if we move on to this, it's a digitally restored 3D model restoration that was done by Travis Saw. We can see that the lines are more defined. We can see that up here has been restored. So with this, we can see the sun disk, which is what's up here. That is a symbol of justice, rebirth from the netherworld, or royalty. Then if we look down here at Katamuwa, we see that he's dressed in kind of a light garb. He's got an elaborate drinking vessel that's likely filled with wine. He's seated at this nice chair that's right before a banquet table that's just filled with food. And this is going to be a symbol of that pleasant afterlife that he's expecting to have with all those offerings. Now, if we look at his other hand, this is going to be a pine cone, and this pine cone is going to be a symbol of Small, which is the city in which this was found. Now, if we look again over here at Katamuwa, we'll notice this hat that's kind of got a tassel, but more importantly, we're wanting to notice that there's no hair coming out from underneath of the hat. So the lack of hair was usually associated with a form of physical purity with priesthood. However, they were usually clean shaven. So since he's not clean shaven, they're not really sure what was trying to be kind of shown with this, because it's not going to be the same thing as with priesthood, since he's not got that clean shaven face, he's just got that lack of hair. Now, if we move on to the inscription, this inscription here, if we look closely, we'll see the names that are in it, as well as the names of the gods, are Anatolian Luwian in nature, which is Indo-European in nature. So combining the inscriptions with the restoration, with what we can clearly see in the restored version, this will show us that this is one of the first Syro-Hittite mortuary monuments that made the connection between the image of the dead at a banquet table and the actual offerings of food and drink. So his hopes that he talks about for the blessed afterlife and dining with the deities is actually parallel to the inscription on the stele for King Katamuwa I. So now this is the only Syro-Hittite mortuary stele that was fully documented in its original setting. And where it was found is going to be here in Zincirli, Turkey. Now this is the city of ancient Samal, which is near the border of Syria, and it's in the Gaziantep province. It was found in the Chicago Tübingen expedition, which is a joint project between the University of Chicago and the University of Tübingen, and it's their Oriental Institutes for both of them. and it was discovered in the summer of 2008. Now, one point of note that's just interesting is that most Semitic cultures believed that the soul resided in the bones. At this point in time, Egypt was one of the only ones that believed the soul was separate, and there was no evidence of Egypt influence found at the site at this time. So this shows the first written evidence of the soul being separate from the bones in this region, and it's also one of the earliest written pieces of evidence in the world for this. Now, if we want to look more closely at where this was, so the city of Zinjirli, or Samal at the time, this is a sketch of what the citadel would have looked like. And this is a picture of the northeast city wall that was actually excavated. Now here is a reconstruction that Travis Saul did for the city of Samal that was based on excavations as well as the remote sensing that was done. And then over on this side here, we've got a reconstruction of what they believe the mortuary temple of Katamuwa would have looked like, and this is where the stele was found. A point of note with the stele is no human remains were found in or below the building in which the stele was found, which shows that if the body was buried, it would have been buried separate from the stele, which means that offerings would have made here at the temple to the stele instead of to the body. Now currently, the stele is housed at the Gaziantep Museum of Archaeology in Turkey. And another point of note is Zinjirli has had no other cities built on top of it, which is what has made it so easy to find all of these artifacts from the Iron Age. And that is it. Thank you for watching.